Okay, so welcome back everybody to our 2021 Lake Protector Corps training. This is part 2, where we review the citizen science lake survey methods, how you can record and report and get out on the lake to look for aquatic invasive species. This will be going from 10:30 to 12, and we'll be able to stay on a little later in order to answer a lot of your questions. We've got a couple of new things to show you and to explore. We're going to go through it slowly, and I'll just say from the top, Brian and I are here to help you navigate digital tools, paper tools, reporting, recording, and how to adopt a map. We're here to help you. This is a not one and done training. So going through, I'm so happy to control my slides. So first we'll go into an introduction to what this program is. I know that we have a lot of new folks joining us today. We also have a lot of returning amazing volunteers as well. I mean, you're all amazing, but a lot of returning folks as well. And so I'm going to ask for folks to even, pipe up or throw into the chat, if you are a returning or longtime volunteer, because coming back and helping to carry out this work is what makes this program function and what helps conservation on the local level. So we'll go into an intro of what this program is, and then Brian's going to do a deep dive into the lake survey protocol, so how to actually go out onto the lake and what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. And then there are some options, almost like I think Brian was using the phrase decision tree of how to record and report the data that you see out in the environment. So how do you record your environmental data if you come across an aquatic invasive species, and how you're going to report it? We're going to give you a menu of options to choose from, and you can choose whichever you feel most comfortable with and which one's going to be the most fun for you too. And then we'll go into resources and next steps. So what am I going to send you as a follow-up to this workshop? How can I set you up to succeed and be comfortable out in the world? And then we'll get into some Q&A. We've made a lot more time for questions and answers for this part of the training. So I hope while I disappeared into the ether, that folks are able to ask more questions about from our previous workshop. And then we should wrap up at around noon today. So again, if you're just jumping into these recordings, my name is Emily Beldinan. I am the Adirondack Park Invasive Plant Programs Education Outreach Coordinator. I am joined today with Brian Green, APIPP's Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator. And we went through the objectives for part 1. So let's go through the objectives for part 2. We're going to understand what it means to be a Lake Protector Corps volunteer. We're trying out this new name too, so if we don't like it, we can change it because it's all a social construction. We never had a real name for this program prior, so we're trying to just give it a name. We're going to learn about APIPP lake survey methods and explore those collection methods, the data collection methods, and how to report. And then we're going to walk you through how to adopt a lake online. It should be pretty exciting. We're experimenting with a new tool, and I'm excited to show it to you. And before we move forward, I would like to host a land acknowledgement to the Mohawk and Haudenosaunee peoples. So I would like to put this link into the chat. Can I do that? We'll see. Brian, would you be able to put this link into the chat for me, please? Or I could try. Will I do this land acknowledgement? And I can do it.
I'll put it in there.
Okay, thank you. So I would like folks to explore this link, and you can feel free to use it later or use it now. But think about, you can put in your zip code and see whose traditional lands or contemporary lands you live on, or maybe where you're zooming from, or maybe where you were born or grew up. And so, thank you, Brian. And so feel free to put those place names and people names into the chat. And this has to do with stewardship, and it has a lot to do with building a community to me. And so, as many of you on this call know, recognizing the traditional names and history of land, water, and people is a humble expression of gratitude and acknowledgement to the Native people whose homes we reside in and who have stewarded this place since time immemorial. And I'm reading this because I want to get it right. Carrying out land acknowledgements is a beginning first step in addressing the impacts of settler colonialism, not just in history, but actively today, and a way to break down all forms of oppression to help learn from each other and remember the importance of each other and also of traditional ecological knowledge in order to grow more resilient tomorrow. We're all joining this call from very different places. I am currently in Saranac Lake on the traditional lands of many people. So it's not just one person per one area, but it's the St. Lawrence Iroquois, the Haudenosaunee, the Longhouse Confederacy, and Mohawk peoples, past and present. We'd like to honor with gratitude to these Indigenous communities, recognize history, recognize contemporary politics, and appreciate the stewardship of the land and water. This calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better people and neighbors and stewards every day. So thank you. And if folks want to explore this map later, it's a really, really cool tool. And it's really interesting, and it has pronunciation guides and connect you to different nation websites across all of North America. So after that land acknowledgement, thank you all. Welcome to part 2 and welcome of this training, and welcome to, oh, I misspelled welcome. Fantastic. I think you all know there's an E there, to the Lake Protector Corps. So I want to just, thank you all again with gratitude for joining us today and for joining this volunteer effort, and for your dedication to citizen science and to protecting water quality and communities across the Adirondacks for generations to come. So, oh, somebody likes the name, thank you. So what does it mean to be an APIPP lake protector? Our goal with this program is to build a community, and we already have been, especially if you've been returning as a volunteer, but to continue growing and to continue fostering a dedicated, knowledgeable body of people and concerned citizens to safeguard Adirondack waters on a landscape scale. This takes a village. Stewardship takes a village. This volunteer effort has been growing since 2002, and this is an incredible turnout today. It really, really is. And I'm excited to help you all, get involved this season. Since 2002, literally hundreds of individuals and families have gone out on over 400 lakes throughout our region. I love going through the photos and seeing people, especially bring their kids out and recording data and getting them involved in citizen science early and stewardship early, and putting that foundation there. And a lot of folks are returning year after year. So if you are a returning volunteer, I would love for you to put it in the chat, maybe say how many years you've been volunteering, how many people in your family volunteer. It's really, truly incredible. And so our goal with this community building effort to carry out stewardship is to grow awareness and education. So I hope to grow awareness in you all in this training, but I hope that you will be able to take this information and bring it to your friends and family, or to your lake association, or to your neighbors in a friendly, happy, healthy way, help them find these resources too. APIPP is working to provide a scientific framework to collect this environmental data. So we have a few things that we're trying to, tweak here and there this year. And that's because science is always changing, especially if the experience of 2020 has taught us anything. It's that scientists are always figuring out new things, and everyone can participate in science. And so if things are shifting or changing, we'd love to get your feedback of how to make it better, or where we have data gaps. And so, we're trying to create this framework. And part of that is that things change in order to, get that next goal. And ultimately, we're hoping and aiming for this community of concerned citizens to go out and collect presence and absence data of aquatic invasive species throughout our region. So a big question was, in the previous workshop was, are these not actually present in our area? Well, we don't know, because we need more people to report. So the goals are, we're doing all this to prevent new introductions of aquatic invasive species, to rapidly detect. We can't eradicate or limit new infestations and eradicate. I'll get into it in a little bit. It's very tricky and difficult and logistically challenging, but we can't take out those brand new infestations if we can't rapidly detect them and know where they are. And we can't manage existing infestations to mitigate those negative impacts if we don't know how they're growing or changing or shifting or moving over time. So we need people out there to see that. And it helps us understand other needs for awareness and outreach, right? Of, oh no, we have this introduction here, or maybe we need this type of, flyer that can go on this boat launch. Maybe we need a boat launch station in this area. So it helps us understand where our blind spots are as well and where we can improve and grow. And so why citizen science, right? You have Emily, you have Brian, you have Zach. Why do you need us? That's because in order to reach everywhere we have in the Adirondack Park, we need as many people as possible. So the Adirondack Park, you haven't noticed, is really big. It's the largest park in the lower 48. And just for some reference, it can fit Yellowstone, it can fit Yosemite, it can fit Glacier National Park, it can fit the Grand Canyon and the Great Smoky Mountains all inside of it. It's a big area. And so we need people across the region to help be the eyes and ears of aquatic invasive species in order to limit their spread or introduction. We have 5 major watersheds within the Adirondack Park. And within those, there are 12 sub-watersheds. So rivers, lakes, and where water is moving, that's a lot in one area. And by the numbers, we have a lot of water. It's a big park with a lot of water in it, especially moving here. I'm from New York City, but moving here from out west, it's great to see how much water there is again, but we need to monitor that water. So 3,000 lakes, 8,000 ponds, 1,500 miles of rivers, and 30,000 miles of brooks and streams. We need, I can't do it alone, Brian can't do it alone, even us together can't do it. So we need to grow this movement in order to understand what's happening across the park. And why monitor? It's because prevention works, early detection works, rapid response works. Massive, one plant can become an entire monoculture. So I'm a wetland, I have a big wetland background, so I'll always use purple loosestrife as an example to talk about wetlands, this interface between aquatic and terrestrial systems, my middle child. So one purple loosestrife can create millions and millions of seeds that can propagate. And a massive infestation is logistically impossible to control, or it would require so much herbicide that, communities would be worried about that application process, let alone the cost. So really when you get down to management and, the ABCs of how do we fix something or help something or manage something, a big infestation that we haven't paid attention to is unlikely or logistically impossible to manage. And that's where eradication is a tricky word, because we can say things are eradicated in with aquatic invasive species, but it's really the rarity. And so prevention is key, and early detection, rapid response is key. Get stuff before it grows. So one purple loosestrife can alter entire ecosystems. And we have some success stories. We have a lot of success stories, honestly. I won't go through all of these here, but rapid response, early detection, rapid response. I'm going to turn off my video because I just got a notification. All right, so I'm safer this way. We're all safer this way. We have success stories from this volunteer network being out there on the water and seeing infestations, or seeing that first plant, seeing that first, that first sign of trouble. And if you're paying attention to hemlock woolly adelgid in the Lake George region, it was because of a trained citizen scientist who was camping that, informed the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation that there was an issue, and rapid response was deployed. So this works. And what's even better than, say, hitting those early detection spots, right? Those early infestations, is almost finding nothing, right? That's the best report you can have. oh no, I went and surveyed and there was nothing wrong. That's fantastic. So of the number of lakes that we have across the Adirondacks, this vast number of water bodies, what we're able to monitor, because we have this amazing core of volunteers, because we're able to carry out some surveys ourselves with our small team and partner organizations, because we are able to hire a summer crew that has a very specialized monitoring protocol and monitoring schedule, because we are able to monitor this vast number of lakes. We know, and we monitor this every year, this map is something you may have seen, your data goes into this map. We're only able to make this graphic and this really amazing map product because of our volunteers. And we talk a lot about maps. That's what I'm realizing more and more, that, and you know, natural resource management is maps, and that's okay and important too. But because of that, we know that 75% of monitored lakes are aquatic invasive species free. And that's fantastic. And here's that graphic again, just from 2020, of what volunteers were able to do in carrying out surveys, what staff and our small number of staff and partner organizations were able to survey, and that pro crew that I talked about. The volunteers outweigh tremendously the amount of surveys we're able to do, and it's vital to this management program. And this is the large number of lakes that volunteers were able to monitor last year. And so just giving you an overview, being in the Lake Protector Corps is a multi-step process. It's 5 steps, and some of these steps have sub-steps. So we're going to walk you through the steps. This is sort of a roadmap. And like a wayfinding station, I'm saying that you are here. You're at step 1, which is attending a training. We're going to walk you through these other steps, and we're going to provide a lot of resources for you throughout the summer to help you understand and best, complete these other steps. So getting from this training to out in the water to reporting your data, you're on step 1. So fantastic. You've already completed half your work. So I'm going to pass it on to Brian. Brian, he's going to walk you through these other processes. And Brian, do you want me to keep sharing my screen? How do you feel?
I can share my screen.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing.
Our lake survey protocol photo.
Yes.
Great. So it's important to remember that, as lake protectors, we're really focusing on this early detection, and your observations are key. So the big thing to remember, we're going to go through all these different steps and different options that you have, but it's good to think about just the overall big picture. And that's what we're trying to ask these questions of: what did you see? Where did you see it? And what did it look like? So those are our big things to remember. So don't get bogged down in the little details, or if you're having a technology or a paper issue, just remember those big things. You are eyes and ears out on these lakes. There's these great comments. I see everybody sharing about them going out and doing surveys, and these communities and these lakes best. So that's a vital resource for us. So remember, at the core of it, it's what did you see, where did you see it, and what did it look like? So we're going through our training step, but the next step that you'll do after this, tomorrow we'll send out an email with a link to our Adopt a Lake website. And so that'll be your next step to do, is to choose a lake or lakes that you are interested in monitoring. This is an interactive map. There you'll be able to click on a lake, and you'll be able to see points on it where people have said, oh, I'm going to monitor the entire lake, or I'm monitoring Lake George, and I'm going to do a partial part of Lake George. And you'll be able to see some lakes that we've identified as priority lakes. So maybe you you monitor the lake near your home and you see, oh, there's another lake that the APIPP program is looking to have somebody just 5 miles away. I'll go and monitor that one later on this season. So you'll be able to look at this map. You'll be able to see where all our early detection crew is surveying, other volunteers are surveying. So if you are interested in working with somebody to monitor a lake, we can hook you up and contact them. So you'll click on a thing and you'll be able to complete a form to register. Emily Bell will demonstrate this at the end of our presentation here. So that's a quick overview of it. It's also important to think about before you get out on the lake, what equipment that you will need. Most people do it from a boat, like a canoe, kayak, or a motorboat. Having a map of the lake or pond is important, like to help navigate, or for your, you definitely need it to have as your one of your data sheets. You'll need your data sheets or a device with the Survey 123 app if you're going to do it electronically. Paper towels and Ziploc bags always help for if you need to collect a plant sample. And then, masking tape or labels to mark those plastic bags with a pen or a permanent marker. Oftentimes for identification, having a bag or like a plastic Ziploc bag or a container, like a Tupperware container, or like those food takeout bins that are white, work really well, because you can float the plant in water and it allows the leaves and the plant to spread out more, and it makes it easier to identify than when you pull out a milfoil and it just like collapses all on its stem and then it's hard to see. Recommend a smartphone or a global a GPS, a global positioning system to use to help you know where you are and to record your locations. Some people like to bring out a net, if they want to scoop something up. You can also bring a small ruler or a magnifying lens to help you measure things or see things better. We'll talk briefly, but they do make these things called view scopes, which are these kind of like plastic viewing devices where you can stick in the water to help you get a better view. Taking a camera or your smartphone to take pictures is really key to do. Taking a cooler if you want to store some of those plant samples in a cool spot, helps them be preserved better. And we really recommend wearing polarized glasses when you're out on the water. That kind of cuts the glare and allows you to see under the water better. Your plant guide, so some of the guides that we will provide in the Lake Protectors Manual, or you can get your own book or print out a resource from the web. And then a rake, what we call an aquatic rake, a rake with an attached rope. And so these are for what we call rake tosses, and it's a sampling device. When you're out on the water and you're looking down at 15 feet and you see a plant down there, it's sometimes pretty difficult to identify it. So if you can toss a rake in and pull up a sample of that plant and then hold it in your hand, it's usually easier to identify. So this is just a list of some of the equipment. If equipment is an issue for you, like I could use a rake, an aquatic race to do rake toss, or I don't have any of these types of things, reach out to us. We do have some materials that we can loan and give out to people. So hopefully we don't want equipment to be a barrier to anybody. So we can try to figure out a way to make that easier for you. The most important thing for all of our volunteers is safety. We want to be safe when we are out on the water, and because accidents can happen, but by being safe, being prepared, we can drastically reduce that. So wearing a life vest or a personal flotation device is usually one of the best things you can do. Bring the 10 essentials, which are the recommended outdoor materials for when you're going out on any outdoor trip. And practice leave no trace principles, which are just good general things to do when you're outdoors to make sure that we are having as little impact as possible. And then having a float plan, which is a basic plan that you share with somebody on land to let them know where you're going, what you're doing, when you're going, and when you plan to be back, is a safe way. We have full details of all of these in our Lake Protectors Manual. So you will get this in more details with more links in the manual. And remember, if we haven't said it enough times right here, I'm going to say it again: clean, drain, dry. It is the most important thing that we can do to protect our lakes. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Ask some of these communities that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars on managing invasive species. It's much better to put that into prevention, education, and keeping them out. Because once they get in, they can cause a lot of problems. And they're very hard to remove, especially for our aquatic systems. Okay. So you've done the training, you've signed up for a lake, you've got all your stuff ready. Now we're ready to go out and do a survey. And so we're going to go over how to meander through the lake, go through the survey timing, the protocol, how to do the visual assessment, and the rake tosses, which are the two most common ways. But first, I want to step back and think about this. I had a professor named Lars Rudstrom, a fisheries ecologist, and he said counting fish. He says it's just like counting trees, except they are underwater, they are hard to see, and they move. And you can say a lot about these aquatic plants. I mean, they are underwater, they can be hard to see, and while they don't move as much as fish, they do definitely move around in the currents, and are the animals do move around. So it is a challenging thing. Look out at these big 100-acre, 1,000-acre lakes, and we are looking for just a few stems, a few shells. And this is the key message that I'm trying to give you, because we're really trying to focus in this early stage of what we call the invasion curve. We really want to prevent, but then do what this early detection. So if you look at where it's possible to eradicate, so if you look at this little crosshair, I mean, we're trying to find 2 to 3 stems out there, because once we get up where in the control phase where there's lots of them and they're very easy to see, it's often too late. So finding that first stem of hydrilla, while it will be a horrible, is not something we want, it allows us to manage it and do something much better. So you are in many ways looking for a needle in a haystack, but by being observant, by going out on these lakes and looking with a keen eye, you'll be able to make great observations. And because you are going out there doing it, it allows us to have this early detection system. And many of you go out on these lakes all the time. You're paddling them regularly, you're boating on them, and so you have a very good feel and a very good knowledge. You are the experts of your local lakes. So for the survey, we ask you go out at least once a summer in July through September. This is our summer period and our warmer months in this region. If you have a specific plant that you are focusing on that you think might be a problem for your water body, you can try to focus your time when you go out based on its phenology, when it might be showing the most growth or showing characteristics like flowers that make it easier. So for example, if you're interested in monitoring for curly leaf pondweed, you need to be going out, July 1st, being able to see it, because if you wait till August, it is going to be all senescent and have died back and you won't be able to see any of it. If you're really interested in Eurasian water foil, going out in August, is vary a lot based on where your lake is in the prism, by elevation or size or aspect or light. So you'll get a big feel. And you can also go out and do it more than once. You different days, different conditions, you might there's lots of ripples or waves on there. It's hard to see under the water. And I generally tell people on a medium sunny day, if it's super sunny, sometimes the glare makes it hard to see. But if it's a nice day to be out on the water, it's generally a pretty nice day to do a survey. Okay, so you got all your equipment, you got your life vest on, you're ready to go out here. You're doing what we call a zigzag meander through the littoral zone. So the littoral zone is the area of a lake that light can reach, and this is where these aquatic plants can grow. When there's 100 feet of water and very deep in the middle of a lake, the plants, that's too deep for them to grow. So it's generally less than 20 feet. And you just kind of in your boat, make these little passes, kind of going around. Sometimes there'll be like shallow areas, like around islands or something in the middle. So it's not always the edge, but you're just going around and you're paying extra attention at inlets and outlets, boat launches, marinas, beaches, existing native plant beds, or the downwind shores. These are places where we typically, you're more likely to find aquatic invasive species because of human patterns or because of weather and wind patterns in there. But you're going to, slowly move around, and you're just going to do the best you can to move slowly through and be observant and look around and try to see things. So we call this a topside visual assessment. And this is the most popular way that our volunteers assess the lake. So you are just going around on your lake. Like we said, polarized glasses really helps, slowly moving through, paddling or boating, and just looking under the water and looking for, at all the plants or animal signs that you see. So going slow, being observant, taking a minute to stop and just like look around in the area always helps. So the rake toss is a tool to use when you can't see plants very well. So maybe you know the lake really well, and you're like, oh, like I'm only in 10 feet of water, but like it's pretty cloudy today. There probably could be some plants down there, but I can't see them. Or oh, I do see a plant that it's 15 feet underwater and it's really hard to ID. Well, you can use these rakes that are it's basically 2 rakes, and you can make your own. You just take 2 rakes, garden rakes, and you can zip tie them together and then just tie a rope to it, and you toss it in. The rake floats down, sinks down to the bottom, and then you let it settle, and then you just slowly pull the rake in, and the tines of the rakes will just grab the plants and they'll just kind of wrap up into them. So, this aids in collecting the plants from hard to see locations. You can pull it into your boat. You can take that little container and, float the plants and kind of separate them out by similar species. And then you'll be able to see, get a better view of them. We recommend doing, 2 rake tosses per location. So toss it off the left and the right, the port and the starboard of your boat, and pull them back in, and then look at all the plants that you see there. So if it's just another tool to aid in your identification, because it's hard to see things when they're 10 feet underwater. Okay, so that's how you do the survey. So many of our people, they'll go out, they'll zigzag throughout, they'll spend, they're generally spending, 2 to 4 hours out on a water body, paddling around, boating around, looking. A lot of times they don't see anything. Seeing nothing is, like Emily Bell, is actually a positive thing. It means, there's no detection of them yet. So this non-detection is important data, but you might see something. So, well, if you see something, now you need to go to the next step. This is the record step. So, it's time for you to record your observation of what you see. And a photo is worth 1,000 words. So, taking photos are great ways to document this. And if we have questions, other people have questions, we can help see. Okay, so now you're in the data collection step, so step 4. And in this, you have 2 different options. You can either use a program called Survey 123 and has what we call the simple aquatic survey, or you can record it on paper. So this is up to you to figure out which one best works for you. And they both have their advantages. So remember, we're thinking about this data collection as these big questions. We're trying to answer, what did you see? Where did you see it? What did it look like? Those are our 3 main things that we're trying to record overall. And then we also ask some general questions about, like, who did you survey with? How did you survey, and where did you survey? So this kind of gives us an idea of our coverage and where people are looking, and some of these metrics. So we can say, we had over 100, volunteers in 2020. So it's able to show our impact that we're making to our local communities. Okay, so the two ways to record are the simple aquatic survey and the paper data sheets. The simple aquatic survey is an all-in-one system. It's one form on an app that you use. It's very easy to record photos and GPS points, and it is part of a statewide use as part of our IMAP Invasives program. So you're doing the same thing that people all across the state are doing. So that creates really high data utility. And it is a very data rich form. So if you feel comfortable using a smartphone or a GPS enabled tablet, this is a very good way to record the data. We also have paper data sheets. There are 3 different data sheets that you'll need to complete. They're very reliable. The batteries don't run out on paper. But the downside is that, they have to be translated into an electronic format, to be able to get it into IMAP, to be able to get into these databases, to make it accessible to scientists and researchers all across the state and all across the country, actually. So I'm going to review the paper forms first. So we have 3 forms. We call them the AIS observations, the aquatic survey, and the paper map. So the AIS observations, that's like the what did you see question. The aquatic survey is kind of like the overall, who were you with, how did you do it? And then the paper map is the where were you, where were the invasive species question. And here's a picture of all 3 of them right here. So you see in AIS, you're out on the lake, you see something. Okay, I found something, it's Eurasian water milfoil. Now I need to go through a series of steps to record information on it. So here is, I actually have my, the data sheets right here. So here's my APIPP Lake Protectors 2021 AIS observation data sheet. You're seeing the same exact one right up here. At the top, you're just recording these basic information, the name of the pond, the town, county, what the date is that you're out. And then you come on to an observation. So we'll look at observation 1. The first thing is we're trying to know where is it? So what's the GPS coordinates? Then the next one is the name. What is the species? And then what is the method? How did you see it? Is it a visual assessment, or did you do a rake toss for it? And then we go into the invasive species distribution. What does it look like in the area where you're at? How is it distributed across there? And the next one is the percent cover and density. So how much of it is there? And then the last column is this IMAP presence ID. That's something that you don't do in the field. That would be something that you would do if you, once you go back in home and you can enter it into IMAP. And so you'll see on the far left, there's this observation number. This observation number is then what you use to label your map. So you're marking the location. Okay, here's number 1. That's where I found the first bed or patch of Eurasian water milfoil. And then here's number 2. Here's where I found the other location. So you'll fill out those same questions about the GPS coordinates, the name of the invasive species, the method, the invasive distribution, and the percent cover or density of it. To go a little bit more detail into the invasive distribution. So this is kind of how it's spread out. It's kind of along this gradient. Trace is like a single plant or a clump. Sparse is like this photo. You can kind of see them scattered around. Dense plants are, growing, really closely together, touching each other. Linearly scattered would be if you see them like along a straight line in a place. And then the last one is a monoculture, or a large bed, a very continuous growth of this same plant species. Now, remember, we're talking about the aquatic invasive species. There can be native species in there mixed into it as a matrix. So you need to be looking for that one plant, and you're reporting on that one plant. And then there's this percent cover density. And so these metrics are to say how much of it there is. And there's 2 different systems. So if you are doing the visual method, you're going to give a percent. So is it less than 5, 5 to 25, going through these categories. And then rake toss, because you're pulling up the rake, you can't really see how much of it is around you. usually, you're doing how much of it is on the rake. So is it trace? It's like a fingerful, sparse, a handful of plants, moderate, the rake is, pretty full of plants, or is dense? Like when you pull that rake up, it's just completely covered and difficult to bring to the boat. So to kind of give you some like little graphical examples, less than 5%, you're just talking about a few plants, kind of spread out, over an area. 5 to 25%, you're in that trace category. You start to get up more in that 26 to 50, 51 to 75%. And then, in this upper category, 76, 100%, it's just completely almost dominant, across the area around you. Now, remember, we are not looking at like this fine level of detail where we don't need you to mark every single stem. You're going to be going across this lake and it's a big area and you're looking for these patches or these bodies. Oftentimes you'll see them in clumps or areas together. A good general rule of thumb is, if they're more than like 100 yards apart, or they're less than 100 yards apart, if you see one 10 feet away, 10 yards away, they can be a very similar same group. So you don't need to mark every single one. We're trying to just mark these broad areas that they are at. Okay, so you've paddled around your water body. Now you've done the survey, you've seen all the AIS that you have, you've marked it. If you didn't see any AIS, there's nothing to record out there at this point. Go back to shore safely, make sure you clean, drain, dry, and then you will fill out and complete the 2 other data sheets, the paper map and the aquatic survey. So on the paper map, you had already marked the 1 and 2 as these were the areas that you had where the AIS were that correspond to that observation data sheet. Then you can just, take your pen and do like a hatching or take a highlighter and a marker and just, color in the area that you surveyed. If you surveyed the edges, make sure you're just going around the edge. If you surveyed the middle and everywhere, just color in the whole area. So we're just trying to get a sense of where was it that you looked on the water body. Okay, so that is the paper map. And then that brings us to the aquatic survey right here. So this is the aquatic survey data sheet, the overall data sheet. This one has been updated for 2021. We're trying to make it a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more check boxes. You don't have to write down as much. So hopefully this is something that's easier to use and to read. And so we're just kind of going through these series of questions to get an understanding of, what it is that how did you do the survey, the overall overview of it. So basic things like the date, your name as a lead volunteer, who are the other people on your team or your crew, your boat that were helping you. So then what is the total size of them? Travel time, how long did it take you to travel to the lake and back from it? And then the survey time, how long were you actively surveying? Say you went out on a lake and you surveyed for 2 hours and then you spent the next 2 hours fishing. You were out on the lake for 4 hours. Well, we only really want you to report the time. I'm glad you went fishing, but we're only going to report the time that you were actively surveying. So that would be like, as this example, 2 hours. And then you'll see these 2 big boxes of AIS search for and AIS detected. So what were the species that you looked for? What are the species that you feel confident that you can identify? Asian clam. Asian clam is generally in the sediment, like buried down. Like if you weren't, looking in the sediment, going to a beach and looking around them, you're probably not going to see them. So, you don't check that box. But, if you feel like you can identify curly pondweed, Eurasian water milfoil, these other different species, check off those boxes. So that's what you look for. And then the AIS detected. So if you went out on this whole lake and you didn't see anything, you will check the none box. So that's a non-detect. Or if you did see something, you'll check off the species that you saw. And then there's some general comments, the weather, access, any other survey day conditions that you would like to tell us. And then the other side of it is, the water body name, the nearest town or county to help identify, because there's a lot of round ponds and eagle ponds and things there. So it gives us a little bit more information. Check off, what water body. Is it a lake? Did you do a bay, a river, a wetland? Most other people are doing lakes and ponds. What's the use of the water body? Is it non-motorized boats, motorized boats? Check all that apply. Does it have a public beach? Does it have a marina? Are there public boat launches? Is that a hand launch? Is that a trailer, launch? So this is important information about pathways of spread for invasive species. Next is the general survey method. The vast majority of our people are doing topwater. They're on a boat looking into the water. So that's topwater. You could be doing underwater if you were scubaing or snorkeling, or you could do it just even from the shoreline if you just stayed on the shore and looked into the water. But most people are topwater. That's the most common one. And the most people are doing the visual topwater specific site methods. And then some people are doing the rake tosses to aid them in those assessments. Your next one is this water body survey. Did you survey the entire water body or only part of the water body? And the next one is a follow-up survey needed. This is kind of asking, like, how confident did you feel in this? Would you like another person to come out and take a look at this? If you only did a partial water body, then yes, it'd be good to have somebody look at the other part of the lake. Or maybe you were out on a day and the conditions weren't great. The water was really turbid, or maybe you just felt like, maybe it's too early in the season. I'd like to have somebody come out later and look. Just mark yes or no for that. And then we have an invasive species sign at the boat launch. After you've done this, did you enter this into IMAP? It's really useful to have you enter this into IMAP. It is a data quality and a data assurance step. So we encourage everybody to enter that, and we'll talk about how you can do that next. And then, here's the contact information for us. So if you are sending these things in by paper, you need to send in these 3 forms via email or mail. So that is our paper data sheets. So I'm gonna just stop the share, right? Let me see if I can, I'll pause. I'll stop the share right now and see if we take a minute to go through and answer any questions.
Yeah, I've been recording a number of questions. So if folks, I wrote in the chat too, if I haven't directly addressed it in the chat, I'm recording it so that I can ask them out loud so that everyone can hear them. So I don't know how much time we have for this slew of questions, Brian.
So if there's we can do like 1 or 2. Like I see, like zip code. Like zip code is something you could record in the town, county, place. Not 100% needed. It's just more of like, if, like I said, like there's like a million eagle ponds or round ponds or different things. There's 2 loon lakes. Which loon lake is it? So we're just trying to clarify what that is.
Okay, I'm going to give you as many questions as I can now, and then we'll hold the rest for later. Survey 123, does it have the capability to be used offline and then uploaded like IMAP?
It does, and we'll talk about that in the survey 123 section next.
Cool. If we are already using the lake management tracker, well, I'll get to this question when we get to the next section. This has to do with monitoring and like the lake survey protocol itself. So the first one is, do you strongly encourage using a boat to test versus testing from the shore or a dock?
Yes, we do recommend a boat because you can cover more area and see more things. If you can only do it from your dock and your shoreline, you can just put that, hey, this is the only area I was able to really cover. But yes, boats are best because you can get out and just see more area.
And the other question, I think I can answer this too. Are paddle boards appropriate for this? Yes, SUPs are actually they can be really helpful if you can bring enough gear on it. So it depends on the size of the SUP, but since you're standing up, if you're wearing polarized glasses, I've done like salmon surveys using APIPP, and you can see down into the water really clearly, but you have to be able to balance and get down to see plants. So if you're really awesome at paddle boarding and you won't like totally fall off your board all the time, then they can be really, really helpful. And then on these data sheets, Brian, another great question was, how do we record negative results?
So the negative result will be recorded on your aquatic survey data sheet. There's this AIS detected none box. So you would just check none. You do not need to fill out the AIS observation data sheet. This one right here is only filled out if you actually observe a aquatic invasive species. If you don't see anything, you just fill out the aquatic survey data sheet and check none, and then fill out all the other different fields, and that lets us know, hey, I went out, I surveyed this area, I didn't see any.
Super.
I see a question in there is like, is the paper maps using Google Maps or any map, you know, works. You can, you know, you could copy like a Gazette map, or like a Google Maps is very easy. It's just easy to go in there and just print out like your things and then just mark it. You know, it's just giving us that general idea of where you're searching and where you saw things. You know, that's why the GPS points are the best, because that lets us know like the exact point. And so then the paper map is kind of just like a reference and orientation.
So one more, I'm going to stick on the maps for, so we had another question and now we have a follow-up question to that. So just to clarify, we had a question in saying, would you be able to supply us with or direct us to maps for smaller lakes that might not be mapped? And then the follow-up, the addition to that, I believe, Ronan, correct me if I'm wrong, but do the volunteers choose their own maps that they want to use? So I would say yes, choosing what map works for you is that is something you can do. But previously, I think that our previous AIS coordinator was able to help guide people to maps. And so Brian, I'll let you answer.
Yes, if you need a map, if you need a map, we can get you a map. But any map will work. So yes, we can help with you. If the map is an issue, just reach out to me and we will get you a map.
Okay, super.
I'm gonna ask
last question.
Last question.
Because this is still on the same topic before we get further out. How long should someone be spending at this site, or is that also up to the volunteer?
There's no time limit, or you just want to kind of be moving across where you feel slow enough where you're getting a good view. If you're doing a 50-acre lake, it's going to be a lot less than if you're doing a 200-acre lake. So it just kind of depends. Okay, well, we are going to continue on. So that's a paper one. If you have other questions about the paper, different things, Emily Bell and I can answer these in the future or at different times. We'll have set times throughout this summer where we'll have like office hours where if you want to pop in and just ask a question, we will be available. So now we're going to transition to the simple aquatic survey and show you if you're interested in doing the data collection electronically. So simple aquatic survey is a form on the ArcGIS Survey 123 app. The ArcGIS is a company, Esri, they're the largest mapping data visualization company in the world, used by millions of people all over the world and scientists. It's a really great tool. It asks a series of questions to complete all the data collection in one place. So instead of having these multiple forms and a paper map and different things, you just do everything in one. You can upload photos directly to there, and then you can send it directly into IMAP. This was developed by APIPP, working with the New York National Heritage Program and IMAP and different resources across the state. And basically, it's going through these series of questions showing the searched area, the what survey methods did you do, and then the individual, did you do a rake toss, did you do a visual observation, and can you show those different species on there. So I'm gonna do a live demo right now. If you have your phone, you can kind of follow along on your phone. But really, I'm going to go through kind of quick through this through time. We have complete step-by-step instructions with photos in the Lake Protectors Manual. So you will be able to see them. You can watch this video again. We have other links to other videos that you can watch with people doing this. So don't feel like, you need to know everything right now, because the real key is just to practice. And you can go out and just practice in your yard. You can just walk around, test this out, see how it goes, and then you'll get a feel for it. I actually really like this system. I do the simple aquatic survey because it lets me do it all in one place. I don't have to worry about all these different data forms or collecting it. I put my phone in a waterproof, they make these like, little waterproof seals, these little dry bags that you can have where you can just access it right in through there. And I find it a very useful way to doing it. So let me stop showing the PowerPoint. And now I'm going to share my screen with the survey 1, 2, 3. Okay. Does everyone see this survey 1, 2, 3 little box? Okay, so I'm gonna just fill out a fake one right now because this uploads data to the system. So this is how you actually, I'll back it up a step. I'm gonna close and lose changes. Close. So here it is from the very beginning. You open up the Survey 1, 2, 3 app, you'll see this SAS Pro Simple Aquatic Survey. You click on it, it'll open up a little box, and then you'll have this collect option. So the first thing I do when I go in here, it'll load the survey. The great thing about it is once you download this survey to your phone, it has a map that's downloaded to it. It works completely offline. It doesn't use any data. It doesn't need Wi-Fi. You can be out in the most remote lake in the Adirondacks. You can still record everything, have a GPS signal. It'll record all the information. So that's really nice. The first thing I'll just kind of like screen, through this, you'll see there's lots of different like little boxes that you can expand or close with these arrows. I like to close everything first, just to start off. And you can see like, there's a section on state park water bodies. There's a section on target species. There's a section on searched area fields, and there's a section on survey methods. And then there's just general information. So I always start off, with your name. I'm just going to put down a Brian Test right here. You then on IMAP, you have an ID that's associated with each one of you. So you have your unique ID that you can type in, or you can just remember it. There's a special save feature that's very useful for these favorites. And then this project ID, many of you have already been invited and gone through there. Our project ID is 937. And so that's something for our APIPP volunteer lake monitoring. So that's just kind of basic stuff. You kind of go in through there. And then you come into this. I always start in the survey methods, because think you're going out, you're on the lake. Okay, I see something. So this is the area where you're talking about what you saw. So let's say I did top water. I'm on a boat, and I did a visual, a topside visual, and a rake toss. So when you click on that, it'll open up these new little locations. So let's say I went out, I see something. Okay, I have a species detected outside of a rake toss. So that's all visual. That's all everyone else. So you would click plus. I saw something. So the first thing it asks is this little, it drops a point. So if you hit this crosshair, it'll automatically drop a crosshair where you are. Because I'm doing this on my computer, it thinks I'm back in my old home in Pennsylvania. So it's going to drop there. But you can actually go in, and in the map, you can manually move it around if you needed to, or you can type in a location. And if you have service, it'll take you to that location too. So you're just dropping a pin saying, oh, it's right here. So there's my location. And then it's asking, what species did you find? So you can just start typing in, I found your Asian water milfoil, so you could, check that off, or hydrilla, if you can spell this, and you'll see they kind of have like multiple different names in there. So I'm just going to do a fake species right now because I'm just testing this. You can enter like the number found, but you don't, that's not necessarily critical. Once again, here's our distribution. It was sparse and it was, in this 5 to 25%, and then the key thing is you can take a photo. So you can go right in there with your camera and you can take a photo of it. And, or if you've already taken a photo, you can upload it right there. So, and then it records the thing. So that's all you have to do. It's just a couple series of questions. Where was it? What's the name of it? The plant distribution, like that. So say you go around and you see another one, you just hit another location, go through there. You can move the map or just drop the pin right where you were and then just complete it going through. So that is the species detected. Here is the Rake Toss one. We are going to say, okay, I did a rake toss. First thing you need to do is there's this rake toss abundance method. We do the Cornell USAC C-SLAP one. So click that button and then just click plus. It'll drop a pin where you are. And then you can go through this the same way. So, okay, some people give IDs for them. That's not, that's an optional thing. Most of the time that's not needed. Water depth, that's also an optional thing. But first question asks you, how much was on that rake? So when you brought it back, how much was there? There was either, trace, sparse, moderate, dense. Let's just say it was moderate. And so that's all the plants that are on there. So there could be multiple plants, native plants, invasive plants. And then, okay, now I'm going to detect my invasive species that was on there. It was, Eurasian water milfoil, and it was sparse, and you can type in the distribution in there. They don't have the distribution field in there, so you can say, also it was sparse, and then you can take a photo of it and put it through there. And then you can just continue to do that for however many rake tosses you've done, or ever how many species. Asian water, and I got a variable water milfoil. So then you could do that, and that one was just trace. There was just a little bit of it. And once again, you can take a photo or go through there. So that's the rake toss one. Okay. So I went around, I found a couple things on rake tosses and species detected. I'm done at that. So I'm done my survey methods. Well, now we need to go back into that searched area fields. So these are the same types of questions, okay, I was on Moody Pond. It is a lake or pond. They also ask, more questions about like what's a substrate was. So, okay, it was sand and some muck. And there were lots of macrophytes, which are plants, and leaf packs on it. There are only non-motorized boats. You can write other comments on it and say, okay, I did a partial waterbody. I surveyed the south end of the pond. So you're just taking your notes. It's very simple questions. Is a follow-up survey needed? Yes, somebody else should do it. I searched, the pond with Kirk Parks, went out with me. So you record the people who went out there. We spent 1 hour traveling and we spent 2 hours actively looking, and you can take a general survey. So that kind of asks that. There's even a section on weather. If you want to record what the weather, you can record the weather. That's optional. And then, what are the target species? So once again, what species were you looking for? You can go through the list. Okay, we were looking for Chinese mystery snail, Eurasian water milfoil, European frog bit. Only put the species that you feel confident that you look for, because this will create an automatic non-detect record. And then the last thing that I do always last is kind of like the paper map. okay, now I need to record where it was that I was looking at here. So let's say Saranac Lake. So here I was, you can zoom out to find your water body. Here's Moody Pond right here. And so then you can click on this little button and you just can trace the area that you surveyed. So just by tracing it across, boop, boop, there you go. So there it is. If you need to like adjust, like let me move that point like a little bit out or move the point a little bit back, you can do that. We're just trying to get, this rough estimate of the area. And then right down in the bottom is this. Yep, that's where I searched or about. Don't worry about getting it exactly perfect. We're just trying to get this general estimation. And then you click yes, and it records it. And then at the very bottom, once you've put everything in, there's a little check mark and it says survey complete. We always recommend it to save in your outbox because it's better to send this when you have a strong data connection, either through Wi-Fi or good service. So you just save it in your outbox. It's right there in your outbox. You can go back if you need to edit it for whatever reason, you can, but that's it. You recorded everything on SAS Pro. It's just a series of questions that you go through and just keep collecting the data for each point you're at. I'm going to stop that share and we'll see if there are any specific questions in the SAS Pro.
I have been working to answer some of these questions, but folks were also paying really close attention. So I'm going to open it up for, instead of facilitating this, like feel free to ask questions and go off mute.
I'll say one of them that's right in here. When you go into survey 123, the choices are sign in or continue without signing in. But yes, so you do not need to create an account on survey 123. So anybody can use this. You do not need to create an account. You can create an account with Esri. That is a third-party company, but you do not need to do that. The general GPS, like a handheld GPS, your smartphone, or, I see this question in there, or, a handheld GPS, they're generally accurate to 3 meters. So generally like around like 10 to 15 feet, and that's accurate enough for most of our work.
Ryan, this is Kathy Welsh. If we've already downloaded on Survey 123 the lake management tracker for more formal surveys, and we go into Survey 123 and download this new simple survey, will it appear as 2 separate pictures that we can then use to go to other lakes?
Yes, exactly. It appears, I don't know if I can, let me see if I can log into my phone. Yes, you'll see 2 different icons or buttons to hit when you start. So I don't know if you can see on my phone right here, but there's Lake Management Tracker. There's Survey 123 on there. So yeah, they're just little buttons that you can just click into. I do it on my phone. An Android phone is what I use. It works on Android or iOS. You can do this on a GPS enabled tablet. So yeah.
I don't know if I'm frozen, but I didn't see your screen shared, but maybe it did and I was frozen. I would also just say iOS means iPhone for clarity. And then Ronan has a good question. I don't know, Ronan, if you want to go off mute and ask your question, or maybe Brian can read out your question and answer it.
Let's see. I'm trying to find Ronan's question in.
I think the question is, will you still have a record of your data without creating an account on Survey 123? Or do you have to create a Survey 123 account?
You do not. It stores a copy of the form on your device. So if you do not have an account, you can still log in, I believe, and that you'll be able to see a record of it even after you do the next step, which is our report step. So yes, it saves everything on your phone. That's or whatever device you are using. Okay, well, I don't want to spend too much time. You can, we'll set up some little coffee hours and office hours to chat about this. There's lots of detailed instructions we have in our manual, and there are lots of resources on the web for this. But I highly recommend it. It is something that if you feel pretty comfortable by this, practice it once at your house. The first time you do it on the lake, you might feel like, all right, I'm not 100% certain about it, but it felt pretty good. The second or third time you do it, it's just it's old hat. You'll learn it pretty quick. Okay, so let me share my screen where, let's see, go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So, okay, we've recorded everything. We've completed. We're on to the final step. This is our report step. So the reporting step is different depending on how you collected it. If you did it on Simple Aquatic Survey, you will just use a Simple Aquatic Survey. If you did paper, you have two options. The Simple Aquatic Survey, this is where it really pays off, is that all you do is click on the outbox. So you have this outbox button where it saved it, and you'll be able to see your survey right there in there. You can go in and edit it at home if you wanted to. I don't really recommend doing that because you might throw off some of your GPS locations, but it is possible to do that. But really, if you did everything in the field and you took good notes and you were observant and careful, all you have to do is hit send. So we recommend waiting till you have good Wi-Fi or data signal, and because it'll upload the photos and upload that information, and it will send it up to the cloud, and you're done. That's it. It will save it in this sent section, so you can go back and see. Like I've already done 6 of them, and I can go back and look at these past ones if I wanted to. So it is it does it all in one place. If you fill out the paper forms, you have 2 options. You can either do it online or do it by paper. So if you're doing it by paper, you're gonna either mail or email each of the data sheets, the AIS observations, the aquatic survey data sheet, and that paper map. We want you to keep a hard copy. So make a copy of it and send it to me, or so in case we have a question and want to go back and look at it. But so if you have the paper ones, you can, and you want to just submit it that way, you will send it in to me. The other option that you can do is if you collected it in the field on a paper, you can then just report it online. This is a better way to transfer your paper forms is to an online form because it reduces transcription errors. So sometimes some people's handwriting is hard to read. It allows you to put in photos and other information with there. And then you get the credit. So you get to enter it into IMAP and you get to see everybody, your name's attached to it, and it's on this platform that people all across the world can use. So it's good to show how many people we have in our communities that are out there doing this. So this is how you translate it into an online. You go from the aquatic survey, goes into what we've created, an online Microsoft form, and then the AIS data sheet and the map go into IMAP invasives online. So the aquatic survey going in the Microsoft form, you filled out a Microsoft form to go through this. It just asks the exact same questions, and you're just transferring it from a paper to an electronic format. So we will provide the link. You just type it in. This just helps us prevent transcription errors, and you can, you're kind of double checking it as you put in. It's pretty straightforward. Should take you less than 4 minutes to transfer it over. Okay, so that's the aquatic survey. So then you have to transfer the other information. So like the AIS observations, the map part of it. Well, you can do that on IMAP Invasives online. You go to NewYork-IMAPinvasives.org, you can log in, and you can create a record using this multi-record searched area. I'm gonna show this very briefly. They have lots and lots of webinars and help on their website. And so let me see if I can share screen, and right here. Okay, hopefully you are seeing this. So I'm logged into IMAP Invasives online, And I'm right here. I'm going to put a record in on Mackenzie Pond. So there's this option right here to click create a record, multi-record searched area, and then it's very similar to the simple aquatic survey. I'm going to say I surveyed this Western Bay all the way around the shore around here. And then I can say, oh, I found Eurasian water milfoil right here. So you're basically just transferring what you did on a paper map online, and then you're just transferring what you found. So I'll do a fake species, but say it was Eurasian water milfoil or something. It has your name, the date you found it, so you can toggle the date if it was earlier. You can tag our volunteer lake monitoring program. You can add photos. You can say we found 2 stems, and they were sparse. You can also enter in things about their the invasive distribution, or the percent cover, so less than 5%. And that's it. And so you could just continue to, okay, I found another one. It was on this side. And you just kind of would drop these points and say where you found, the different species. Next. So that's all our presence records. I found 2 of them. It comes to a treatment record. This would be like if you were treating, if you were removing them or doing something. We don't typically do that, so just click next. You could write down species that you searched for and you didn't see. So this is a non-detect. Once again, only put down species that you really feel confident that you looked really well for. And then you just hit complete. And when you hit complete, it'll just save all the data and upload it. And here's all the records that have been saved, and they're now in IMAP. So it's an easy way to take your AIS observations and paper map and just put them directly into IMAP Online. Okay. Any questions about our recording and reporting?
We have a few questions. Where is this? Can I use the UTM grid coordinates instead of a latitude and longitude?
And you want to record it using UTMs? You can. I don't know if, I don't think IMAP allows that format, but if you want to record it on your data sheet using UTMs, yeah, we can convert that.
Okay, I think that was back at the point where you were showing the Microsoft form to report information. We have another question regarding IMAP that you just showed just now. And what are the advanced details on that form?
Oh, there are lots of things you can enter into IMAP. They are many different questions. Most of them we're not doing, like, are you doing biocontrol? Are you putting pesticides out on there? There is a lot of information that you can record in both IMAP and the simple aquatic survey. A lot of it, we don't know. Think back again to really the core of it. What did you see? Where did you see? And how much of it? That's the real core of what we're trying to do. The other information, it's great to have. Weather, substrate bottom, this data helps us try to have better understanding of it. But, focus on the core of it. And yeah, don't worry about doing biocontrol or pesticide applications when you're out there.
Great. We have one more question regarding the simple aquatic survey. So to reiterate, what we've been putting in the chat is that if you have cell service out on the lake and you want to hit send for those records, you can do that. It will use data on your phone because you'll need cell service, like using any app without Wi-Fi. You can also come back home or go to the library, wherever you access internet, and upload those when you're back in Wi-Fi access, and that won't use data off your phone. But this question has to do with the simple aquatic survey and memory on your personal device, because everyone's being asked to use their personal device. So will this data take up space on your phone?
Yes. So once you collect it on the field, we recommend saving it to the outbox. So it saves it on your phone, depending on the, how many photos you took, how many different things. It's generally pretty small. We're talking like megabytes, a couple megabytes. Once you upload it to, hit upload, hit send. Once it says, yes, it's been sent, you do have the option of deleting it, which would delete the memory space from there. So yes, if you needed to reduce the space on your phone, you could do that after you have sent it.
Cool. Thank you. Yes, please send it and then delete. And then one last question for Survey 123. If you're using the Survey 123 app, the field app, to access that Simple Aquatic Survey. So Survey 123 is the app, and then Simple Aquatic Survey, just to reiterate, is the survey you use with that app. So just to clarify. And so if you're using that system, you don't need to mess with IMAP, right?
It does it. It's an all-in-one platform. So you do everything in Simple Aquatic Survey. It then uploads the information to IMAP. So the only thing that you need to do with IMAP, if you're using the Simple Aquatic Survey, is make sure that you just have an account. You just need to know your personal ID number and our group ID, which is 937.
Great.
But
and we
yeah,
will send out that information again. So we'll
all this information is in the step-by-step instructions that are in your lake protector manual.
Super. We will have more questions, I'm sure, following. If we're ready to show folks how to adopt a lake is the next step, I think, Brian, or are we? I can't.
Yes. So, I mean, you've now completed all 5 steps. Do a little dance, and if you're super excited about this, you could survey another lake, or you could do another survey at a different time on your lake, or just wait till next year and come back and do that again. We hope this is something that you enjoy doing and that you will do for a long time.
And we'll be able to, as Brian said, and Brian, I was just going to say, I think my computer doesn't want me to do a tour of the adoption maps. If you want to share your screen and drive the PowerPoint, and then if we can drive through the web map to show people how to adopt a lake, and then I'll let people know how to, what information we're going to send out to them, because I know this is a lot of info we're kind of throwing out there, and a lot of new digital tools, a lot of different options. And so just to reiterate what Brian said, especially Brian, will be here to answer a lot of questions having to do with using Simple Aquatic Survey and making more tools available, to help you understand how to use it. And there's still the paper data sheets, and there's that Microsoft form. It's actually the same system to report your paper data sheets as the RSVP that we asked for you folks to fill out here. So if you're able to fill in that form for registering for today's workshop, entering that the info you collect out in the field on the paper data sheet, once you're back at home at a desktop computer, should be pretty simple, and we'll be able to help you with that too. So there's lots of options, and just some shifts this year. So take what you want and leave the rest, so to speak. So if you want to share your screen, Brian.
Yes. So a new feature that we are doing this year is showing an online website that you can sign up for. So you can see where other people are surveying and where you want to survey. So I will share my screen now, and we will send this link out tomorrow to everybody in the follow-up email. But it'll take you to a website where you'll be able to see a map of the region, and you will be able to zoom in. And when you zoom in, you'll start to see the lakes pop up in different colors. So this red lakes mean available to survey. The yellow ones mean somebody's survey is planned. So let's see, we're in here around Newcomb. So I can click on Lake Harris, and we can say, okay, do I want to adopt this lake or Woodruff Pond? And so you would just navigate to whatever lake you are interested in. And I'll do Wolf Pond right here. It'll give you some information. We don't know when it's been surveyed. We don't know if there's aquatic invasive species in there. And it's 140 acres in size. So that would be a great lake for somebody to adopt. As from an information point of view. So, it's going to drop a location on there. So if you wanted to like adjust, where, it was, you could slightly do that, but really just dropping a location anywhere on the lake. And then you're just going to fill out, information. What was today's date? Your name, your email, and, you're just going to basically just go through here, yep, and see if it'll auto-populate. There you go. So you can just fill out this basic information, and you can your organization or school if you want to, an emergency contact name. And it's going to ask you, are you over 18? Just barely. Did you attend a training? Yes, I attended a training. Am I going to survey this whole pond, or am I going to only survey a portion of it? I'm going to survey the entire water body. And then we have our disclaimer and liability.
It is correct that Keene Valley is not a city.
Keene Valley is not a city, so let's just call it.
Technically it is. I'm not sure why it won't let you.
Hey Brian, that's an error on my part. Sorry, this is Zach. I'm fixing it as you speak. Just put in a two-state abbreviation in that field.
Oh, it needs to have a two-state abbreviation. Oh, so I need to say New York. Let's see if it'll work there. Okay. Let's see if it'll let me go through here. So we have our little waiver saying that I'm going to be a good volunteer for the Nature Conservancy and be safe, and I'm in good health, and I'm not going to hold the Nature Conservancy liable. So I acknowledge the terms, and you can use your mouse to kind of sign your name as best you can. And then it doesn't like me doing.
Just put the 2-digit state. Don't include the city. That was my bad.
Oh, just do this one. We're doing state lawyer. We'll fix that for tomorrow before it goes out. Let's see if I do the whole thing, Zach, you think it'll work, or just wants to? It's gonna want to. So let's see if we can get that through. Oh, well, not working right now, but basically here, let me go back. You can see I can show you a past example. So if I go back to here, when we tested this out before, you can see we have a couple points that we are able to drop. So you'll be able to see like right here, there's a little green dot. So the green dot means somebody saying that they're going to survey. Here's one I filled out. So Little Green Pond has been adopted by Brian Green. So you'll be able to see where, other people have signed up for. Here's one.
It should work now, Brian, if you try it again. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Saranac Lake Lower has been adopted by Brian Test. There's one I was testing. So here, we'll do quickly. Here's Mackenzie Pond. Let's see if I can. This was last surveyed in 2020. It tells you 240 acres. We'll give today's date. Let's see if I can do this really quick. Also need New York. So Zach, if I try it just like a city, I'll go through here. We'll say, everybody can call my brother and tell him they love him. I'm over 18. I've attended a survey. I will survey the entire water body. I didn't put my phone in for here. So I put my phone, so you got to get everything just right, like most of our forms. I have to sign the waiver that I acknowledge. I signed it there, and boop, it was successful. So you can click return to the map, and now when I zoom in on Mackenzie Pond, you see this little green dot right there. And that's me, letting everybody know that, hey, Brian Green's was going to survey the full water body. And then we'll, at periodic times, we'll then update the base map, where so this outline color will change right there. So there should be a website that you'll be able to go through and drop a point on, say, I'm going to monitor here, and we'll be able to keep track of everybody.
Brian, if you could just keep sharing your screen, and I'll just ask you to go to the next slide.
Okay, go back to our slideshow. Yes, sorry. Bear with me 1 minute as I get, let's go to screen one. Will this? Okay, can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yep.
We just went through the sign up map. Oopsie, that was a hyperlink.
Oh. Yep, cool. So thanks for, if you could just go to the next slide. So we're gonna have this, I'm gonna just go through what I know we're close at, or we're over time, but I want to just list out and reiterate everything we're going to send out to you all, because we have so many resources available that will be easily accessible from our online resource library. So when you go to, if you go back, when you go to our website at the top, there's this menu where it says about invasive species, events and news and resources. So if you clicked on resources, the first thing that pops up is just called our resource library. And then it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. So resource library, and we're going to work to try to make this a little more easily navigated to on the home page. But once you get to a resource library, you can scroll down and hit volunteer materials. So you can actually click through to this, Brian, if you don't mind.
You wanted to go to the actual website?
Yeah, please. No, oh, that's okay. I'm going to send it out anyway. So it'll show you a nice long list of hyperlinks and resources where you're going to be able to download and read the volunteer manual. If you, that's chock full of resources, we might even break that out and let you know where it'll live chapter by chapter, because it is such a large document. You'll get links to, pretty similar to how I hyperlinked with that homework email I sent out. You know, here, step 1, click on this link to download this app. Step 2, click on this link to download this material. It'll have our data sheets, you know, our classic paper data sheets for folks to download and print out, and so on and so forth, as well as the links to the recordings of this webinar and that adoption map that Brian just drove through. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to send you following this workshop, you know, as you all learned, we're still building this adoption map. It's complicated, and we're a small staff just trying to figure out, you know, this cutting edge kind of stuff. And so we're working on the adoption map, and we'll be sending that out to you. PDFs for everything you'll need to print will be on that page. Links to downloading IMAP and getting yourself set up with that online or on your iPhone. Getting the Survey 123 field app on your device, and accessing the simple Aquatic Survey. Also links to that Microsoft form to enter in your paper data sheet with, according to this workshop, as I mentioned. And then there's some stuff we're going to send you snail mail. Once you sign up on that lake adoption map, we're going to know, okay, this person has moved on from step 1, which is attending a training, to step 2. They are digging in, they are adopting a lake. And that's when we're going to be, you know, spurred into action and know, okay, we're going to actually send them this stuff in the snail mail so that they're prepared and ready to go out on the lake. So, you know, volunteer ID card where you can also record your IMAP account number, just so you have it handy, and even the project number that you'll sign up for on IMAP, so you have that handy. That species ID keychain that I mentioned, that's laminated, that's like easy to access. You can clip it to your PDF. Some public education materials in order to explain to folks what you're doing out there, or if your neighbors need information, we want to make sure you have what you need. And we can send you, like with the maps, or if you have challenges, you know, getting anything printed or finding stuff like that online, you know, Brian and I are here to help you. Next slide, please. And then there's a Rake Toss lending. So if folks want to borrow, our operations people, I believe last summer, made a number of simple rake tosses for us to be able to lend out. And those are available to pick up from our Keene Valley office. That's the Nature Conservancy office in Keene Valley. And to coordinate, you know, picking up and lending that tool, Brian is the best person to contact. Next slide, please. Of course, I'm here to help too. Like, I can't find Brian, he's in the field. I'm like, I need a rake toss. So I want to open it up to more questions, but we can also just go to the next slide so it's up on the screen. And this is just another upcoming workshop we have that I hope you'll all attend. It'll just be a talk on July 21st from 7 to 8 with Dr. Gary Lovett from the Cary Institute of Ecosystem Studies. So let's open it up to questions. I know we're over time, and so I'm gonna stop the recording. We have a number of really good questions in the chat, and I still have some recorded from earlier if we have a minute.